why could they not have just knocked their heads together on Tuesday and David Littleproud could have said, OK, we'll walk back on the idea of not having cabinet solidarity, and Susan Lee could have said, OK, we'll make a couple of exceptions on, waiting forever to make our policy decisions. I'll take these 4 to the party room and we can sort that out now so that we have a decision on the coalition. Why did they not just do that?
I don't know why they had to have this discussion in public to begin with. Honestly, what Susan Lee said at the beginning of the week, that everything is on the table and everything is up for consideration, was exactly the right thing. That doesn't mean anything's ruled out. That doesn't mean no more nuclear. But what David Littleproud has just done is he has forced a situation where, first of all, the Nationals have lost power because they've been away and now forced to come crawling back to the table. But he's also forced the discussion in the coalition side along a path that isn't helpful for either of the parties in the next election, in the sense of the next election. So now there is the argument that the tail was wagging the dog, or, that even though the policy suggestions that have been agreed to are actually very mild, reconsidering whether technology agnosticism, these sorts of things, that's, probably where it would have landed anyway.
Indeed. David Canavan was asked about all of this and where he sits on it. Here's his point of view.
Almost all of this smoke is being pushed by upset Liberals who seem to be, some of these, not all of them, but some of the Liberals seem to be fighting the Nationals Party much harder than they fought the Labor Party just a few weeks ago. If only they showed the sort of fight they've taken up against the Nationals the last few days, against the Labor Party, maybe we would have done better at the election.
I said David Canavan there. Matt Canavan, of course. I meant too many people in the Nationals Party.
With Matt Littleproud.
I know, Matt. We won't go there. Is that a fair assessment, Will?
Yeah, David, Matt Canavan, whatever. He was spot on. This is the problem. I think in your intro, you basically made the assumption that these are two groups of people that have a clear set of beliefs and there's a contest of ideas and they just couldn't work out how to bridge that gap. And the problem is, that is not the case. This is a Liberal Party that doesn't know what it stands for anymore. In the past, we've had a broad church and there's been a debate between whether you are more classically liberal or more socially conservative. And now the broad church has been blown up and you've got a vaguely right-wing people wandering around in different directions. And as a result of that, I completely understand how the National Party can't have a conversation with the Liberal Party because the Liberal Party doesn't know what it believes in. So really, that has to be the first step, is what is the purpose of the Liberal Party in 2025? Because I don't think they know.
Well, and that's the discussion they'll have to have. And I kept mentioning this during the week, Kel, that I thought Garth Hamilton's analysis in the Oz on Monday was excellent, in which he said the best thing about Peter Dutton was that he brought unity to the party, and the worst thing about Peter Dutton was that he brought unity to the party because they didn't have these policy duels that they needed to have to form something that would actually look like an electable government.
United in nothingness.
Yeah, correct. And I think the Nationals were trying to make some effort to pull them in that direction. But it was so unedifying. This whole episode has been so unedifying.
Exactly. And in fact, what it's done, I think it's shown us that the voters never get it wrong. Let me just explain. Go back to the election. It was a negative election. It was full of Australians who voted for nothing and no one, but voted against what they didn't really like, which is why there was the great flood of people going to the minor parties. And it's why, in deciding what to do with preferences with the major parties, it was all a case of, who am I going to vote against? I don't like either of them. The Labor have just taken us through 3 horrible years, but we dislike the Liberal Party and the coalition even more. Their judgment was the Liberal National Coalition is not ready to govern. And what have they done this week? They've just shown us they're not ready to govern. The voters never get it wrong.
You can, your context in the Labor Party, Joe, I imagine, were jumping up and down this week. I mean, could you have asked for a better gift for the Prime Minister?
It is just absolutely just mind-boggling. I mean, it is, again, there was one bad couple of days for Labor after the election when there was another factional brawl over Ed Husic and Mark Dreyfus being in the cabinet, and what did the coalition do? Hold my beer. And just in they go and say, no, you think that's a brawl. You think that's disunity. Wait till you get a load of us. It is, Will is right. The Liberal Party is a broad church. It is divided unto itself. So the Liberal Party in and of itself is 2 different wings that cannot agree on pretty much anything. And then you've got the Nats on top of that. The worst possible thing that you could do in that scenario is let the public know how divided you are and the fact that you completely disagree with the other lot on the policy offering you're eventually going to put out. Whatever they put out now, people are going to know that it's bollocks or that it's subject to change or that the person saying it doesn't really believe in it.
I just couldn't disagree more, Joe.
Okay,
and I have to tell you why. Because
Net zero.
This unity notion, is such a Labor notion.
Yes.
And actually having a discussion thoughtfully in public is a strength that people can value.
You cannot
so
suggest-
there is.
You think this was a good week?
No. This was not a good week, but this is because, I mean, the situation is quite right, Will, where we're at. The Libs don't know what they're for. And the reason for that is after 2007, they never had that discussion. And then election after election after that, it's been papered over by power struggles between the moderates and the right in the Liberal Party. Now, finally, things have blown up so badly that they need to have this discussion. And it's going to happen in public one way or another. This week was terrible because of the Nats stuffing around with who can be in charge. But actually, this philosophical discussion that is going to be had is a potential positive if it's carried out.
I don't see.
I agree. I agree.
But you need to have two philosophies to bring to the table, and they don't have that.
Well,
there is a lane for a third party in Australia, a la Reform, because the Liberal Party are doing exactly what the Conservatives have done in the UK and have had failed over year after year. And we now have the opportunity to go, well, is the Liberal Party past its use by date?
And you see, that relies on all these other disparate mobs actually knocking their heads together as well, which has never happened and probably never will, so they'll blow that one up the wall as well. And of course, it's raised the question, of course, about whether David Littleproud can keep his leadership of the Nationals Party, because he fended off Matt Canavan only a few days ago. Littleproud spoke about that today.
I'm pretty relaxed. You see, since I've been leader, I've been prepared to take the tough decisions. First one to make the decision on the voice, on divestiture, on nuclear, on the RAF, and I led a party that backed those decisions to say that we're not going to walk away from them into the future.
I mean, he talks about being relaxed. I'll tell you someone who looked really relaxed during the week, and that was Anthony Albanese. He came back from the Pope's inauguration in Indonesia, and I have never seen the Prime Minister look more relaxed and comfortable than I saw him this week. And can you blame him?